what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the might of entrepreneurship. Another special episode of the Mindset Monday series with my co-host. I don't know what that was. Justin Thorstad.
The crowd goes wild.
Hey, Justin. He's a man. If he can't do it, no one can. Hey, Justin.
Thank you, Raph. Cool. Appreciate that. Gio's losing his mind over there.
Yeah. It was a long weekend.
Sounds like it.
So let's talk about taking the leap. Why do we hold ourselves back, right? Why, even though after we go through, stages and volumes of research, we still get caught by analysis paralysis, right? What holds us back? I mean, I think it's a very, very interesting topic to unravel, right?
Yeah. Well, do you think most people stop because of analysis paralysis? I mean, I'm not sure, because I only have myself really as a point of reference.
Well, no, I mean, I think it can be a mix. It can be a mix of not knowing, what actions to take, of course, one of them. Fear of failure is another one.
Fear of success.
Fear of success, yeah. Sometimes, and it's crazy because I've caught myself procrastinating on stuff that I know it's like, no, that's an easy thing. It's going to work out. And then, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and I still haven't pulled the trigger on something that's relatively simple. Like, so what's that subconscious barrier that's holding us back at any point in time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, let's just break down some of those stumbling blocks. So, for me, I operate a little differently. However, there's been times in the past where I've been nervous or scared to kind of take that next step.
Yeah.
And, really, if you boil it down to the core truth, it's simply there's something about me, like an image I have of myself, who I think I am, who I think I'm not, what I'm worthy of, deserving, capable of creating. And if this end result of this thing launched, the business up and running, it's profitable, it's at market, or any dream or desire that someone's going for, there's something about that result that doesn't fit that self-image.
Right.
And so naturally we find ourselves doing something completely different other than our priority list of to-dos. I'm like, why the hell am I doing the dishes? You know what I mean? Type situation.
Yeah.
Or you're just checking emails and browsing at things you would normally never look at. Like, what's up with that? Yeah. And it's like, well, because the mind is so brilliant, its job is to keep you safe. It's designed for survival. And so that's scary. So we're going to divert attention elsewhere, right? And so the key is obviously just to be super mindful, self-aware of how I operate, why I operate that way, so that I have more awareness to catch myself when I'm off track. But fundamentally, there's a limiting belief that's been self-imposed. You can say, oh, no, my parents gave it to me. You adopted it, right? And the good news is if you adopted that limiting belief about yourself and what you're capable of, and so on and so forth, that's really great news. Honestly.
You can adopt something else.
Exactly, because look how successful you are at running that belief, and it drives behavior, producing results that you have, even the ones you say you don't like. And it's like, but your mind is 100% successful at that belief. So if you just swap that out and put something in, you'd have to replace it because there can be no void. You can just cut it out.
Yeah, let me unpackage that. You the phrase that you use, I think is very powerful. Look at how successful you are at that belief, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good thing. Right, if your belief is, of lack of inadequacy,
I'm not smart enough.
Low sense of worth. I mean, we're gonna get really good at that belief.
Totally.
Right, and as a result, our environment is gonna manifest that. It's important to understand too that we can actually come in and then add different programming to our thought process. One of my all-time favorite books is Psycho-Cybernetics.
Yeah.
Maxwell Maltz.
Yep.
It's an incredible book, and it just really dissects the entire idea of self-image, right? It's also a very practical book in the sense that it gives you ways of dealing with that kind of stuff and improving your own self-image as you go through the process. So I highly, highly recommend it. If you haven't read it, it's the book that you need to read.
It's in my top 5 for sure.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yep. And it's not a doctor's in psychology. He was actually a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, the guy was a plastic surgeon.
He discovered this on accident. Yeah, it's really cool.
Very interesting book. But it's all about self-image. It's about how do we see ourselves? How do we carry ourselves, right? That's the result of it.
Well, in that self-image, what it does is that those beliefs, it sets up like a lens, if you will, in which we're able to perceive information, our reality, right? It's like, because we don't see things as it is. We see it as we are.
Yeah.
And people can argue that all day long, but I can give you some exercises and you'd be like, oh shit, it's true. And so what if you had a faulty lens and you just swap that out for something more productive and in alignment with who you desire to be and what you want to create?
Right.
And it really is that simple. I didn't say easy, simple.
Yeah.
The process in of itself. And the really cool thing is, yes, you're going to be successful at that belief because that which you impress consistently must be expressed through the body, right? And so our realities are really just an outpicturing of that servo mechanism called the mind.
So bringing it back to taking the leap, right? I mean, self-image is a big thing. And I like the fact that we started pulling on threads on that topic because, I mean, it's an incredibly important topic. It's one of the things that you must have awareness on, right? How do you see yourself? What's that internal conversation, the one that you keep having in your head, day in, day out.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning and you see yourself in the mirror, what are you telling that person, right? Like, what battle are you fighting with that person?
Same thing you said yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. But are we being proactive in terms of improvement and in terms of giving us the right conversations that are gonna push us forward, as opposed to staying stagnant or staying in that state of fear that freezes us from taking action going forward. So with that in mind, I don't know, give me maybe 2 or 3 things in your opinion. I'll dissect, mine too, on what holds people back from coming in and taking the leap.
Sure.
Towards
and give us some context. Yeah. So, for example, like the analysis paralysis people, right?
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate that I never suffered from that because my limiting belief was I'm not smart enough to figure it out. So since I can't sit here and strategize and put together some spreadsheets and forecasting and blah, 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 like I'm just going to go get into action and figure it out. So that's been, it held me back in a way, but it also propelled me forward. Yeah. And so people with analysis paralysis, let's think about that. What they're really saying is when I have enough information to be comfortable, then I'm willing to move forward. But I have some questions about that because I mean, do you suffer from analysis paralysis at times, or had you in the past?
Oh, I have in the past.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
And I learned to mitigate it really, and it was absolutely one of the things that came
clearly,
through because of my need to be on point with stuff. Like, no, I want to have this shit dialed in before I launch, before I.
Yeah, but why?
It was just a me thing. It was really me having a conversation with myself and being highly critical of the type of stuff that I wanted to put out there, if it was content or whatever. At the end of the day, like it really came down to having this need for one, validation that my stuff is dialed in,
okay,
right? Which leads again into this sense of inadequacy or sense of worthiness.
So it's got to be perfect, or
exactly, or I suck.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. I'm not putting good stuff into the world.
Exactly. So perfectionism,
right?
It could also be just that simple fact of like I don't want to make a mistake, or as people say, I don't want to fail. Right. And so if it's not all dialed in and I don't know the 100 steps I got to take to get there, then I'm not going to get started because I'll fail if I don't know that. Yeah. And it's like both of those are just illusions because think about it. How do you know it's going to be perfect until you bring it to market and the consumer gives you feedback? How do you know what action steps to take? This is important towards, creating something you've never experienced before. So you're telling me, here I am, point A, this is where I am in my life, and I want to get to point B, which is this business or this thing, yeah? I've never experienced that before, so I don't have any information really about what it's going to take. This is my best guess, and I don't want to make a mistake. That's fascinating to me. Yeah. Like, you don't know what you don't know.
It's
How
like
can you possibly plan
being born and walking right out of the womb. It's not going to happen.
No.
It's one of the books actually that kind of shifted my perspective on that. My alter ego is Leonardo da Vinci. or Ironman. I mean, take your pick depending on how many whiskeys I have on top of me.
Yeah, sure.
And, but
At least we're raw and
but
real
it's
here.
it's a book called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. And it gives you 6 ways of like the way how he, I mean, just dissecting his notebooks and work through the years and whatnot. This is it's 6 things that he used to kind of keep in mind, or now they think that that's how he used to develop like that was his framework, right? His thinking framework. But anyways, one of them was build something up to like 80% and then roll it out. When I started, when I read that, like that made so much sense, because I was really good about conceptualizing something. Like, I don't know, if I have a business plan, if I have an idea or something, I'm going to conceptualize, the thing real quick. I'm going to start putting it together, nuts and bolts, and piece it out and get it to a point where it's launchable, right? And then where I realized that where I was getting bogged down was on the details, the fine tuning, the dialing it in, right? That process. And I was trying to do all that from a theoretical standpoint.
Yeah.
Then I would launch and I mean, I would find, I don't know, 100 bugs, with whatever the thing was. If it was a process in the business, like I would launch based on me thinking that it was going to be perfect and smooth, and it wasn't, like that. So what I started doing was build to, 75, 80%, where I feel like, okay, this thing's 75, 80% ready. Let's implement, like, let's roll it out.
Because
roll it out.
We're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Roll it out, and this is kind of like the nuts and bolts, right? Pragmatic advice, but roll it out to your audience, to your team, to whatever. If it's a product, roll it out. You're gonna get feedback on that, and then it's gonna come back to you. Now, when it comes back, the feedback comes back. Fix it. It's gonna be fixed to maybe, I don't know, 96%, or something like that.
So
and you're gonna roll it out. So it's
improvement.
never 100. Yeah, and it's never 100% because it's always thing changes. Things change all the time.
Yeah. There's so many X factors in that, right? You roll out something and somebody sees that and is like, oh, I could do that and I could do it better.
Yeah.
Right. And so now you have competition, which means you need to evolve your process or product so it's always changing. And
it becomes a lot easier to do it, right? Like once you have some context outside of yours, it's like, okay, cool. You start seeing things in a different light.
Yeah.
So that helped me with the whole, perfection thing.
I like that. Yeah. 80%, because how do you know what 100% is until it's rolled out and the consumer gives you feedback on what they like, what they don't like, and how to improve it?
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, if you think it's 100% and you roll it out and then it flops because they're like, there's no value here, the consumer, right? It's like, then what? You're going to take that personally?
Yeah.
And you spend all that time and energy and effort and resources to get it that far and then take it personal? It's weird.
Another thing, communications. Like, how many times have you sat there trying to craft the perfect fucking email to do a response about, I don't know, something like I used to do this when, like, somebody, I don't know, dropped the comment on YouTube, or, I mean, I would sit there and think about the perfect response. And instead of, being organic with it, right? Like pushing it to a point where, okay, this is releasable. Let's just have a real,
conversation.
Real conversation, stuff like that. But it's I think it all ties into that, that fear of taking the leap, right? You're taking the leap and you're betting on yourself, because that's the best bet.
Yeah, totally. So, regardless of the limiting belief that people have fear around, right? Which again, fear, acronym for false evidence appearing real. It's just a story your mind made up.
Right.
Why you're listening to it, I have no idea. But let's say that you are. Like, man, I guess what I'm trying to say is it all boils down to, you can look at this endeavor as giving yourself an opportunity to succeed, or this is where I could fail.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a choice. So a lot of people say it's risky because if you take that chance, it may not work, right?
Yeah.
And then all that time, energy, money's wasted. Plus, you quit your job in order to do this, and now you're not making any money. Like, there's a risk. And I would say, risk, okay, but who are you betting on? What are you betting on? Like, I'll bet on me any day.
Yeah.
Because I won't quit. So it's like, if I look at the opportunity to fail, that's going to hold me back from looking at the opportunity that this is my shot, finally, to succeed.
Yeah.
And if I don't take it, like, where am I going to be in 10 years from now? Yeah. From that deciding moment of, do I move forward or not? Where am I going to be in 10 years? And in 10 years, do I want to be like, okay, that didn't work out, but I adjusted, I pivoted, I took a different approach, went a different direction, and I was successful at something different because I took the step. Or still at the job, I still got that dream in my head. Someday it'll come true.
Still complaining.
And it's still 10 years later, and you're still bitching and complaining that your ship hasn't come in yet, or I haven't gotten my shot. It's like, man, this is an inside job, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's get on with it.
Yeah. It's absolutely an inside job. The shot's not gonna just come at us while we're sitting on the couch or contemplating, right? Like we have to move towards the stuff that we want. And there's nothing wrong with being on a 9 to 5, right? If now, if you want to do something bigger, you have to see it as a transition. You have to. I was talking to somebody else last week, and they're thinking of, they want to transition from the place where they're at to the place where they want to be by having their own business and running their own thing and owning their time and that sort of thing. It's like, but I can't take the leap. We'll transition out of it, right? If you're in a 9 to 5, you're building somebody else's dream, and if you go home at 5 p.m., 6 p.m. or something, whatever, and you sit on the couch and you start going through Netflix and all the shows, and you're catching up on shit that you haven't watched yet and all that stuff, you're stopping yourself from working on your own dream. And I'm not saying become a workaholic. I'm saying get time block. I mean, get discipline. The freedom really is in the discipline, right? and it's even if you put 2 hours into your own vision, your own dream, now you're building your thing. You're building your ball of wax, and you can shape that thing in any way that you want.
Yeah.
If you just go through the process of doing that, right? Like go the extra mile. That extra mile is usually pretty empty, and it's your mile. Yeah. It's not nobody else's mile.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because just before you said it, my mind went there, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because like I train, coach a lot of agents, right?
Yeah.
And I pride myself in, like, I specialize in taking people with full-time jobs and getting them free. Just because there's a process you can follow that's duplicatable. It's rinse and repeat. And so with people that have a job, though, like, yes, they want to have it to where they're earning 200, 300% more money, and they're working 50% of what they did in the job.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want that? But we'll see. Because what it's going to take, and I love your saying, man, hustle's a season. What it's going to take to get in outside of the 9 to 5, in the evenings, on the weekends, to start building some momentum. Yeah. Like, it just comes down to the discipline. And however, though, I mean, I look at it a little different. Like, when I go to invest myself into a new startup, that's a whole nother topic. Man, I don't have to, like, discipline myself to do it. Because if I'm not excited about it, I'm not interested. Right? Yeah. So that's another tip I would say for people. Is like, why the hell are you doing this in the first place? Like, and can you do something to consistently remind you of what your inspiration is? Yeah. What's your why? Like, why does this matter to you? Because I'll tell you what, like, if you start a company or any kind of business from scratch, we were talking about this earlier, the amount of time and energy that it takes to really start building some momentum, to get this thing where you can take your foot off the gas a little bit, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's so much. And if you don't absolutely love what you're doing, any rational person would quit.
Yeah.
Because it's just work, and it's a lot of work. Or it's a ton of play. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had a buddy this morning that sent me a message on IG, and he's like, yeah, but are you loving what you're doing? I said, well, the product in and of itself, not necessarily, but here's my why. These ancillary businesses are creating this symbiotic ecosystem where it all feeds itself. And in the process, my agents and the consumer win, which means I win. So we got a win-win-win going on here.
Yeah.
That I love. That I'm passionate about. Because that business is going to some other company that doesn't care about my people, doesn't care about the consumer, and they're driven by one thing and one thing only: profit. Yes, that's the essence of business, of course. However, if it's the number one priority, I don't want to do business with you, because there's no heart behind it. There's no soul. There's no cause behind it. And I suppose there doesn't need to be. But for me and how I operate, like, if I can't emotionally get behind a thing, I'm just not interested.
I think it's important, right? Like, and it's also important to understand there's different stages. I mean, you're not in the transitioning phase anymore, right? You went through that when you were still, listing properties and doing, seller appointments and all that.
Absolutely.
Stuff. So you were transitioning from that space to building this other thing, this other operation that was really your vision.
Yeah.
So you had to do things there, right, to get through the trench work, right? The thing is not to get bogged down, not to stop while we're in the middle of that. So that's important, right? The second thing is I think you make a fine point on the idea of purpose. It's got to be fun. If it's fun, you're not going to play that much. I had a group of about 7 people that came by this morning at 11. A couple hours, they were flying through town, so they came in, stopped by real quick, and then took another flight to Vegas. And we're getting together. We're planning thinking about an event we're probably going to be putting together, some collaboration between Texas and Arizona, and doing a couple of things there, right?
Very cool.
And we're having this conversation. It's just organic conversation, brainstorming, and we were laughing through the process and everything, and then the comment came up like, "This is how we work." And like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's fun, it's organic, it's intentional at that point, right? But it doesn't mean that, I wasn't doing 16-hour days, at one point. It wasn't mean that I wasn't, pounding away at doors looking for deals. Yeah. I still work deals. Stuff like that to get to the point where you're playing in the same space that you're creating, value for those around you. So that's going to take a while depending on who you are, and it's going to take you knowing you, right? Because we can get enamored with the idea of providing, inspiring and empowering and all kinds of stuff out there. Just from looking at people who are crushing it in social media, looking at the highlights and all that stuff. Now, if that's not you, and if it's not, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying just the audience. If that's not, in reality, like the thing that we want to do in life, in my case, it's empowering entrepreneurship. Like that shit fires me up, right? But you can't necessarily borrow the passion from somebody else. You're gonna have to figure out who you are. Maybe empowering entrepreneurship doesn't mean squat to you, but you're a creator at heart, right?
Yeah.
Maybe art, maybe expression, maybe something else. Like you got to find out what yours is and roll with that for a while. It's gonna feel like you're kind of fine tuning this machine and going through the process of working out the kinks, and there's a lot of things moving. It's very dynamic, right? But when you get to the sweet spot, man, where you understand, you have a good grip on what your purpose is, and then the stuff around you, the projects start to connect to it. It takes on a life of its own, and the speed picks up real quick. Anybody who's got multiple property or companies out there, or is an entrepreneur, has been an entrepreneur for more than, I don't know, call it 5 years, knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and 9 out of 10 businesses fail, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the actual percentage is. I don't know if it's 90% fail within the first 5 years.
But I think it's 93%.
Yeah, that's a lot. And so people look at that and go, "Oh my God, that's risky."
Yeah.
No, it just means you got to be willing to be all in and start 10 businesses. And so, like when you said empowering entrepreneurs, like you even started to smile and a little kind of, like it lights you up, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just it. So what we're saying is, if there's an activity, a task that you love doing, that just doing it in and of itself is the fulfillment, you're onto something. And now you've got business 101.
Yeah.
Do what you love doing and find a way to monetize it.
Yeah.
Because you have value. It has value. Like, bring it forward.
Yeah.
And I'm just here to ask, like, who the hell do you think you're not? In such a way that you won't bring it forward and share that with everybody else. Because I sincerely believe, like, we all have a unique gift.
Oh, yeah.
And
100%.
not only that, but our unique gift, only we can express it and explain it the way we do. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a give to humanity.
Yeah.
You're supporting, you're contributing to the collective, your greatest gift, which is you.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to step out there and get on the field and play ball. Because, you're going to get hit. You're going to get knocked down. Like, shit's not going to always go your way.
Yeah.
But you'll win sometimes. And I don't know, man. I just, being in the entrepreneur space for this long, like, you can't ever go back.
Who was it that said you only have to be right once as an entrepreneur?
I don't know, but which is really
Mark
great
Cuban.
news. Oh, okay,
Mark
because
Cuban, yeah.
I'm usually wrong a lot of the
Cuban.
times, but I'm
Yeah, it
willing
was
to
like
take the shot.
I was just right once, and he's done I don't know, hundreds,
Ridiculous.
of,
yeah,
if not more.
But I mean, like Michael Jordan, there was a meme on social media a while back, and I'm sure you can Google it, but he said like he was given the ball to make the game-winning shot X amount of times, and only nailed it like a fraction.
Yeah,
it's like. But that's why I'm the greatest of all time. That's why I'm the champ. Is because I'm willing to take the shot and miss.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to bat 1,000.
Yeah.
So can you just get up there and swing the fucking bat?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're getting into it, especially if you're getting into the space of entrepreneurship and launching your own business and getting, started in that realm, you don't even know what you want yet. I mean, I can...
No.
Like,
you have an idea?
We have an idea, exactly.
Yeah, but, and you think it's it?
Dude, I mean, when I launched, I'm telling you, when I launched my first business, I was like, yes, this is it. I'm going to die old doing this thing. Dude, I was sick and tired of it by month 3. We start to understand ourselves as we go through the challenges, right, of it all. But I mean, it becomes this experience, and at the end of the day, like, none of that gets triggered if we don't take the leap.
Oh man, 100%.
Right?
Well, I do believe that we all have some latent gifts inside of us. The problem is they're not revealed to us until they're demanded, until they're like forced out. And how are you going to know how great you are until it's given the opportunity to be shown to you, right? Like, and I just think that business entrepreneurship really is a spiritual game. Like, you learn so much about you because everything is just a mirror. Yeah. And it's an opportunity to check in, learn some lessons, and they're gifts in those opportunities.
And also, I mean, realistically, right? It's one of those spaces where you can't really afford to fuck around.
That's true.
You have to take responsibility of your own actions. You have to take, because there's people depending on you.
Yeah, 100% ownership.
100% ownership. Otherwise, there's entrepreneurs and I mean, I don't know. I can't think of anybody who hasn't taken 100% ownership of their actions, of taking action, right? That has crushed it as an entrepreneur. I can't think in my head right now. Weird. I can think of him. Anybody, but it goes along with the turf. So if there's stuff holding you back, I mean, if you have this imagery of the person that you want to be within the next 10 years, the place that you want to be, the business that you want to be doing, the relationships that you want to be having, within the next 10 years, you have to take the leap. That's it. Otherwise, are you going to be sitting on the same cubicle? Are you going to be sitting on the same desk? Are you going to be driving the same route? Are you going to be, living in the same neighborhood, over and over? And if you're happy and blissed, by your current state,
bullshit.
Beautiful.
Bullshit.
I'll be the devil's advocate, right? It's a beautiful thing. But if there's a seed of doubt in there, if there's a seed of doubt and you're wondering, what if I were to do this? What if I were to do that? I'm going to tell you one thing. Like, time flies. Oh. Time goes by.
Dude, it's already mid-February.
So quick.
Like, what happened?
It's exactly.
Yeah, every year goes a little faster.
I mean, and you're going to find yourself wondering the same questions, 5 years down the road. Nothing changes if you don't change. Nothing moves if you don't move. So
I'm going to qualify my bullshit statement. So a couple things, like what you said about
that sounded like you needed validation.
No, I just want to support everyone hearing or watching this. Is that if you focus on where you could be and how you could win in 10 years, or you focus on, why it won't work, and so you sit still and do nothing. Yeah. You got to just realize whatever way you decide, your mind must be right. It must. Yeah. Because your survival depends on it. And in that limbic part of the brain, right? Like, it's just going to happen if you're not willing to quit. But not getting started because you're focusing on what can go wrong is failure. Yeah. It's not even getting started. The bullshit thing was, okay, hey, if you're happy with your 9 to 5 and da-da-da, it's like, you mean if you're comfortable with that shit? Because everybody, and I mean everybody, wants something bigger, better, or different. Something. And I think that's just because like our soul is always for expansion and fuller expression.
Yeah.
And so there's something everybody wants that's bigger, better, or different. Yeah. And it doesn't exist where you are with what you're doing right now. Because if it did, like your little bubble of comfort, you'd already have it. It exists typically out here. And you got to stretch yourself to engulf that.
Yeah.
Like, and how wonderful is that? Because now a bigger, better version of you is coming forward like with everything you're doing and everywhere you're going and everybody you're talking to.
Yeah.
Like, what do you really got to lose?
Yeah.
Like, well, I'd say if you don't get started, what you have to lose is everything. Your dreams. Everything you lose if you don't get started. If you don't just take that step. If you don't resource yourself. If you realize that success in this endeavor doesn't mean that I'm worthy. Like, my worthiness isn't on trial here. I'm just going forward because I'm passionate about what I do and how I do it. And, man, I'm bringing value to everybody.
Yeah. One of my favorite authors, too, Gino Wickman, he wrote Traction. I had him on the podcast a while back. But he wrote The Entrepreneur Leap, Taking the Entrepreneur Leap. So it's also a really good book in the same topic. So, Justin, great combo, dude.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Somebody wants to get a hold of you, where do they do it? Yeah,
JustinThorstad.com, Facebook, Instagram, or my cell, 602-348-8534.
Bing. I'm gonna come up with one of, like, you remember the little songs that they used to do on the infomercials, like when they were giving out the no, never mind.
Like a little ditty?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I'll make it spiffy.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Run with it.
So, fam, ask yourself the question. If you feel stuck, if you feel like you should be moving forward and you're not, and you're finding excuses left and right, because let's be real, there are excuses, ask yourself the question, where do you want to be in 10 years, right? What's really holding you back? How perfect does your shit have to be rolled out there? Build it up to 80%, then, see what happens. Yeah. Throw some spaghetti on the wall, I think is one of my favorite analogies. If you have multiple ideas out there, throw some spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks, and roll with that, right? Create some discipline in your daily activities. If you have a 9 to 5, you can still carve out 2 or 3 hours out of the day. I guarantee you, wake up, earlier. Oh, well, I'm going to be tired and whatnot. I don't know. Eat healthier so you have more energy. Yeah. Go to the gym and work out so you have more energy.
Redirect how you spend that time.
Exactly. So we can always channel certain things in our lives to improve that lifestyle, right? However, if you're looking for a reason why not to, you're going to find that too. So keep that in mind. Leave the bullshit aside. Take the leap on your dreams. Bet on yourself. You are your best bet. So with that being said, fam, love you all. Stay focused. You got this. Let's go.